Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news transfer news update show with lots of stories coming in. We're going to get through the latest on Ugarte because yesterday it was obviously said the Ugarte agreement is closed, but what is the final details on Ugarte, and could that also affect the Zubimendi case? Could United get both? Is it one or the other? Because we've got more confirmation on United's interest in Zubimendi and a few breakthroughs there. We'll get through the latest on the ins and outs, but one star, one generational talent, young striker has told his teammates he's going to Manchester United. The belief is that that deal is going to be done, and what a brilliant signing that will be. Now, another signing that would be a brilliant signing is Pacho. Now, I've been saying when we've been talking about Branthwaite alternatives, the only ones we've been incredibly linked to are Inacio and Hancho, but my other options for Branthwaite alternatives were Calafiore, who's gone to Arsenal, so that's off the cards. Hatto, but now we've got Lenny Euro. I don't think we should be signing another 17-year-old prospect. And my third option was Pacho. And if Man United get Pacho, I think that is a really, really good deal. He's someone that no one spoke about. And I said this 2 weeks ago. I said, why is no one talking about Pacho to United? I feel like he would be a really good alternative to Branthwaite. I've been saying that for a while because I had to do a research project on him about 3 months ago, and I was really impressed by what I saw. And now Man United have an offer for Pacho. So what is the latest on that? Who is the player? I can tell you a bit about the player. He could be a really good Branthwaite deal because there's reports coming out that the Branthwaite deal is off. Man United will not get Branthwaite. The deal is off. Ornstein's come out with some interesting updates. So now I've spoken about Ahmad and Sancho as plans for them both that could be linked to the future of Xavi, Simmons and more. So guys, please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, and let's dive into the deal. And I want to quickly get into this comment from Axel saying, Rabiot soon, done deal for us real. I don't know. We're getting a lot of reports coming out that Rabiot is on the verge of joining United. It's going to be a done deal. He's going to join United, la-di-da. I think Rabiot is a free agent. Rabiot's agent is pushing stuff to the media, to the press. The sources and the constant sources from Italy that are saying that Rabiot to Man United is nearly done, I don't believe them. I don't trust them. So the reason I haven't really reported much on Rabiot is until there's a source that I'm familiar with saying that, I'm not going to really report it. There's a lot of information about Rabiot to United, but it's very... take with a pinch of salt sauce, because as you know, people use United for clicks. People write absolute BS about United because it gets clicks and all of that. So let's dive into the news. I'm going to give you a quick catch up on all the latest on Ugarte because obviously I think that will be the next signing, and then I want to get into the news on obviously Chido, Obi Martin. I want to get into news on other targets. So it was obviously said on Ugarte recently that Manchester United know very well that PSG are in advanced talks to sign João Neves, so they're not going to pay 70 million euros for Manuel Ugarte. We also know that PSG spent 60 million euros on Manuel Ugarte, and he didn't have the best season and willing to take a 10 million euro loss, according to original reports, which would then say that's 50 million euros, which would then put a deal in the 42 million pound range, which I think United will be able to negotiate it down to easy. It was said the relationship between United and George Mendes is excellent, and that Ugarte has the same agent as Lenny Euro. We obviously know that George Mendes and his agency side had been talking and visiting Counting a lot lately, and that was to discuss Aït-Nouri, Ugarte, Lenny Euro, and João Neves. We were discussing all four of those players with, of course, George Mendes. So I think that also helps. We know that Ugarte has told other clubs he wants Manchester United. That's his number one priority, and other clubs have been rejected because Ugarte wants United. And it was also said that Manchester United and PSG are close to reaching an agreement for the transfer of Manuel Ugarte. Manuel Ugarte has told PSG that United is his first choice, even though he's got a lot of interest in Spain and Italy and Germany. He makes it clear he wants Man United. Though Santi, who is a really good source of information, is saying an agreement between Man United and Ugarte is close. Fabrizio Romano did say that negotiations between PSG are ongoing, and it could take some days before going into the final stage. So although we've got good sources saying that Ugarte to Manchester United is close, which is brilliant, it has obviously been said by the likes of Romano it will take a few days before it goes into the final stage. So I would say, look, it's not going to happen today. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow, but I think like next week could be the week for Ugarte. Lenny Maldini, I love that in the chat. We will talk about later in the show. We will talk about the game yesterday. I already did a review on the game yesterday, but we will do more detailed chat about yesterday's game. Toby Collier, Lenny Euro, Amad Diallo, some fantastic performances there. I can't say his name. Maxi Odelay, he was really good. Harry Amash had a much better game. He looked really good. Technically, Harry Amash has got it. It's just physically, I think he needs a little bit more time to bulk up. But there were some really good performances yesterday as well. But Lenny Maldini, man, he looks unbelievable as well. Do you think we get Pacho instead of Ligt? I think Ligt is still probably a slightly better player than Pacho. 1 leagues and 3 leagues and all of that. But I do think if we want a left centre-back, I do think Willian Pacho is a really good option. I've been talking about him for a while, but no one else has. I feel like I'm the only person who spoke about Willian Pacho in regards to United, because I generally think his ability to play left back, left centre back, his physical ability to defend wide channels, 1v1 defending. I think he would be more suited to what we need than Ligt in terms of left footer. But I think Ligt, in terms of his ability to play under 10 and his ability and experience in top leagues, we know is a better centre back, so it's less of a risk, especially when Frankfurt want 50 million for Pacho and we could get Ligt for 40 million. So I think that is the big question, but we're going to talk about that in a second as well. I think we're going to get Ligt. If I'm going to be honest, I still think we're going to get Ligt, but we'll dive into that in a second. So what is the latest coming out on Manchester United news and their move for Arsenal star Chido Obi Martin, who would be a fantastic signing, seen as a generational talent? Manchester United aim to move quickly in talks for Chido Obi Martin, with the player keen on the move. Interest from other clubs is not as advanced at this stage. Chido Obi Martin has told academy players he will be joining Manchester United. So, if you don't know who Chido Obi Martin is, he is apparently a generational talent at Arsenal, their best sort of under-18s talent. Arsenal fans are crying and raging about this, and Arsenal do not want to lose this guy. And apparently he will be joining Manchester United. He's gone around telling his teammates that I am joining United. Now, Chido Obi Martin obviously had a tour of Carrington. There was a lot of news coming out that United were making moves on this guy to the tour of Carrington. He's not going to sign a new deal at Arsenal, but there's also other clubs interested, and there was no official agreements for the guy. Now, while there's no official agreements, although Graham Bailey is actually saying that we've had personal terms agreed, Graham Bailey reported this morning that Obi Martin has agreed personal terms to join United, so maybe there is an agreement, but Graham Bailey was the same guy that told us yesterday Mount was leaving, and Fabrizio Romano debunked that an hour later. So until Fabrizio and Ornstein tell us there's an agreement there, I'm not going to believe what Graham Bailey is saying that we've actually agreed personal terms with him. But he's told his teammates that he will be going to Manchester United next season. Inside Arsenal sources, some of the best Arsenal sources have said Arsenal expect him to be a Man United player. He was moved by his trip to Carrington. Now, what did Fabrizio Romano say on this guy? And what did Fabrizio Romano say on the latest news in regards to this, guys? Fabrizio Romano said this: Manchester United want to close the Chido Obi Martin deal and are pushing to get it sealed as soon as possible. Chido will make a final decision in the next hours/days after visiting several clubs in the UK and Germany. It's considered imminent. So he's saying that the deal is considered imminent. He's not saying that we've agreed a deal like other sources are saying, but he's obviously told his teammates he's coming to United, and lots of reliable sources believe the player is Manchester United bound. Guys, please do hit that like button, and of course subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more. I go live every single morning on the channel. I then do a live in the afternoon, and then I do a video in the evening. But if there's loads of news, I'll do a live in the evening, and then I'll do a late night video rounding up all the news. So on the channel we do two live streams a day, sometimes 3 on days of crazy news. But we also do roundups every evening throughout the transfer window. It'll be like a 10-minute roundup where we round up all the relevant news. So if you don't have time to tune into all my live streams throughout the day, all the relevant news you need to know is summed up at the end of the day as well. But let's dive into some more stories. Let's dive into some more news bits and information as well. Someone said, what about Lucas Gorner Duaf? I don't know what the latest is on him, to be honest, because obviously he was a player that we were reportedly looking at, very talented young player, but there's been no official advancements on him. But apparently he's one that United are watching as maybe someone to come in as a second midfielder. But I think we wouldn't make any moves on him depending on outs, but he's obviously one that's liked by Vival. Police Street out for 8 million, Amrabat in. I mean, 8 million bid for Police Street is pathetic. We can get 15 million for him at least. We can get 50 million for Police Street at least. The 8 million bid we've got for Police Street is absolutely pathetic. I didn't even bother reporting on it. Anyway, so obviously this is the guy we might be signing with 32 goals in 18 games. 32 goals in 1,400 minutes. He averages 2 goals per game at 16 in the under-18s league. 2 goals per game at 16 in the under-18s league. That is so insane. That is ridiculously insane. That is ridiculously good, isn't it? Unbelievable as well. So, I mean, what a signing that would be as well. Guys, make sure you hit that like button. We are going to get into the Zubimendi news. We are going to get into the Willian Pacho news very soon. We will also give you the latest updates on the likes of Adrien Rabiot, who, reportedly seems to be Manchester United bound. I mean, there's loads of reports coming out that Rabiot's really close to joining United, this and that. But I just think with like Rabiot news, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. I really do. I don't really believe many of the sources linking us to Rabiot as well. He's also 6'4" as well. Apparently the Branthwaite deal is off, and we are looking at alternatives for the Branthwaite scenario as well. So let's dive into this. What's the latest on Xavi Simons? To be honest, there's a bit of a blow on Xavi Simons coming out as well. And I wish we signed these players before the end of the window. Xavi, Simons, Ugarte, Amrabat, Zubimendi, Ferdi, Pacho or Branthwaite, or Atalanta's players are obviously injured as well, and Chido would be good. Hopefully they could bring great success to United. But let's dive into the next story as well. So what was said on this front? It was said here on Chido Obi Martin. It was said this: Chido Obi Martin visited Manchester United's Carrington training complex earlier this week to discuss the move. The player's yet to agree in terms of Arsenal. He got 10 goals versus Liverpool at 16 and 32 goals in 18 games at 16 in the under-18s league. He's a fantastic player. But we've spoken about him a lot. I want to move on to the Zubimendi news. So this is the first of about 3 different stories coming in on Martin Zubimendi to Manchester United. So Manchester United are looking at Martin Zubimendi as they continue to consider their options for midfield during the summer transfer window. So obviously, if you're not familiar, we got linked to Zubimendi maybe 4 months ago as a potential option, maybe even 6 months ago as a potential option. But then when summer came about, Zubimendi to United just became really quiet. Like, we were actually linked to him quite a lot. And then obviously it went a little bit sort of quiet. Now, recently, last month, we were linked to Zubimendi by some Spanish sources, but then it went quiet and those Spanish sources weren't the most reliable. We're now being linked to Zubimendi again by Spanish sources saying United are planning to put in a bid for Zubimendi, but again, they weren't the most reliable. We've now got reliable Man United brief sources coming out saying, yeah, you know what, the Zubimendi interest is there. Man United do actually have an interest in Zubimendi. It was obviously said here that Manchester United are looking at Martin Zubimendi as they consider options for their midfield during the transfer window, and that James Ducker said he's attracting interest from Manchester United. Now, what is relevant about these stories and what do I need to tell you about these stories is, first of all, we've now got Man United brief source saying we're interested in Zubimendi. We've now got lots of information saying we're interested in Zubimendi. There's a rumour that we're preparing a bid for Zubimendi. Now, I want to throw you back to the Mason Mount, Moises Caicedo situation. Do you remember when we wanted Mason Mount from Chelsea, but Chelsea were being a bit iffy with the price, wanting 70 million for a guy with 1 year left on his deal? And then we knew that Chelsea wanted Caicedo. All of a sudden, we had Laurie Whitwell and good source of information saying that United are weighing up a move for Caicedo when we were negotiating the price with Chelsea for Mount. We didn't get Caicedo, but all of a sudden, the week before we signed Mount, there was a lot of discussions that United were going to get Caicedo instead of Mount. Now, I personally believe that that could be a similar situation happening with the Zubimendi case. That, like Caicedo was used to cut Mount lower in price, Zubimendi could be used to get Ugarte lower in price. Now, I know we have an interest in Zubimendi. Man United have been watching Zubimendi a while, and maybe we sign both Zubimendi and Ugarte, because that is a report. There is a report that if Manchester United offload McTominay, Casemiro, Mesbury and Eriksen as planned, they will look to find both Zubimendi and Ugarte, as they think they're the 2 perfect players to complement each other, with one being great on the ball, one being great off the ball. And that would be an ideal world. But I do think Zubimendi is like how we use Moises Caicedo to get Mason Mount as well. Xavi Simons is wanted by Manchester United, but there is some interesting updates coming in. Where will Xavi Simons play? He'd play left wing. I think he would be left wing cover, and Rashford and Ahmad and Garnacho would be right wing cover. If Sancho and Anthony stays, I believe Ahmad will be a starter this season, maybe even cover for Bruno. I think Ahmad's going to be a starter this season. I think Anthony will stay because we're not going to get any offers for him. And I think if Sancho goes, we'll go Xavi Simons. I think Xavi Simons depends on Sancho, but I think also if Xavi Simons has gone by the time Sancho goes, keep an eye on Pedro Neto to United. I got some information actually from an inside source that Man United is still keeping an eye on the Pedro Neto situation. It just depends on who's leaving and the fee, because Man United see Pedro Neto as the most likely alternative for Elise, and obviously we didn't get Elise. But Man United know that Wolves would ask for ridiculous money. So Man United are keeping an eye on the Pedro Neto situation. Man United are following the Pedro Neto situation, but that will depend on the Sancho sale. So although we've not been linked to him by anyone yet, I've got inside information to say that Pedro Neto is definitely there on the list. They also like Nico Williams, but his wages are out there. So if Sancho goes and we do make some money and outs, trust me, it is definitely one to keep an eye on as well. What's going on with Ivan Toney? I don't think it's going to happen. There's an interest in Ivan Toney, but due to the additions of Xerxes and having Højlund, it's not seen as a priority by Man United. So, yeah, Ivan Toney to Manchester United, guys. I wouldn't stress too much. I don't see that happening as well. Man United made a big mistake when we spent much money on players like Anthony and Mount. I think Mount can definitely be a good sign for United. We saw elements in pre-season of what he can do and what he can bring to United. I think Mason Mount could definitely end up being a fantastic bit of business from Manchester United. But I think Anthony, we were even saying this, Anthony, £40 million, I'm not going to complain at. Anthony, £85 million. Even I was saying, even though Anthony was really good at Ajax, and I watched him at Ajax, he was a good player. Like, he's not as crap as he was now. at Ajax who said he's not an 85 million player, he's not worth 40 million. The Man United scouts said he wasn't even worth 25 million pounds, and we still went and pressed ahead on that move for Antony when the Man United scouts said we should get Elise. Murta ignored them, saying we should get Elise for 35 million instead of spending 25 million instead of spending 85 million Antony because he's a 25 million player. Murta and co ignored them and they went and got Antony. This is the main brilliant thing about Ineos coming in. This is one of the best things about Ineos coming into United is because they're going to have sporting people making decisions. It's not going to be John Murta getting Antony because Ten Hag knows Antony is at Ajax and spending 85 million on him. The people at Ineos will know Antony's not worth 85 million. So in that case, they would have gone and got Elise for 35 million, which is what the scouts told John Murta to do. But the poor footballing people at United were ignored. Like, the scouts at Man United aren't bad. There are footballing people inside Man United and they've never been bad. Our scouts have always been good the last 10 years. They've been ignored. If you're a scout at Man United, you must feel useless because you'll make these suggestions of good players for good value, and those at the club will ignore you and then sign these crap players. Like, the scouts were never the issue at United, and now we've got Ineos coming in that will listen to the scouts, will also bring in their own input, their own knowledge with Bivol, with Wilcox, with Barada, with Ashworth. And it's going to be really, really exciting, I think, as well. It's going to be exciting. How about Zubimendi, Ugarte, and Amrabat? I don't see 3 midfield signings happening. I think it will be Zubimendi and Ugarte if we offload, McTominay, Casemiro, Mesbury, Eriksson. I think more realistic would be Ugarte and Amrabat. Or Ugarte and Rabiot. But there is a report that if we offload all of our midfield options, we would go for Zubimendi and Ugarte, as we see them as the perfect partners for each other as well. Zubimendi is being linked to help us get Ugarte for a better price as they need to sell Neves. I think that as well. I like Pedro Neto, but he is injury prone, but it's definitely one to keep a watch on. But Man United might be able to use that to negotiate a cheaper price as well. Xerxes in and Højlund's in. There was rumours of Ivan Toney, but reliable sources have debunked that as well. I think Ahmad will reject a new contract offer. He'll want significant game time. I think Ahmad is not going to accept a contract until we're mid into the season. This is Ahmad's season. This is Ahmad's season to shine. Ten Hag's made some comments that Ahmad's going to have a big role this season. We need Ahmad to sign a new contract. He's obviously changed agents lately. It's really important we get Ahmad on a new contract. We may have to give him minutes as well. If I'm Amad Diallo, I think, well, to be fair, do you know what's mad? Is Ten Hag gave Forson minutes over Amad Diallo. I like Ten Hag, but Ten Hag gave Forson minutes over Amad Diallo, okay? And Forson's left for Monza on a free. If I'm Amad Diallo, I say this guy gave Forson minutes over me because he had 1 year left on his deal and he wanted him to sign a new deal. If I'm Amad Diallo, I go into the next season with 1 year left on my deal because I know Ten Hag will give me minutes, so I will sign a new deal. And then when I get the minutes and I get the performances and I break through into the team, which I genuinely believe Ahmad will do, bish bash bosh, he signs a new deal. I think he'll sign a new deal in like December time. If we lose Ahmad for free, I would be devastated. But I think Ten Hag now knows he's got to give Ahmad minutes. He's got to give Ahmad minutes, yeah, because otherwise we could lose him. I think Ahmad is being smart about that. I think he's not forgetting that Forson got minutes over him because Forson had 1 year left. Ooh, voice crack. Forson had 1 year left on his deal. Guys, do hit the like button and of course subscribe down below if you're new. Dear Alice, what is the update on Zubimendi? Is there any sign? Is there any to sign any midfielder without offloading? I think we can sign Ugarte without offloading, but I think it would have to be a structured payment or a loan with an obligation to buy. There is a feeling that one of Casemiro or McTominay will leave. So, in regards to Zubimendi, we've obviously been linked to him by credible sources, so the interest has been confirmed. But as I've always said on Zubimendi, this is my opinion. I think Man United are spreading Zubimendi links to get PSG to lower Ugarte's price, but in an ideal world, replacing Casemiro and McTominay with Zubimendi and Ugarte would be good business. Ugarte is best off the ball and a ball winner. Zubimendi is a good controller with technical security, two profiles that complement the midfield well. Now, there are reports saying that Man United want to sign both and Man United want to do both, and if that is true, that would be absolutely brilliant. I would love to see Manchester United do both. I think that would be an ideal scenario. But I think we're using Zubimendi to get a better fee for Ugarte, if I was going to be totally honest with you as well. People saying, do you think Ahmad will stay and sign a new deal? I think maybe. I think it depends on game time. How was he playing Forson and Antony ahead of Ahmad? Can't believe a player of Ahmad's quality was benched the first 18 games of the season. He was benched for 18 games before he got to start Amad Diallo. Look, I like Ten Hag, but why was he playing Forson over Amad Diallo, man? Like, I know Ahmad was coming back from injury, but it's so obvious that Ahmad was twice the player of Forson. Like, Ahmad, whenever he had cameos, was good. But if you looked at Ahmad, scored a goal versus Liverpool, that got us to the FA Cup final, which we won. He had a crucial part in our FA Cup success. Brilliant game versus Arsenal. Brilliant player. Let's talk about the midfield news, though, because I am being asked a little bit about the midfield news, what the updates are in midfield, what moves Man United could be making, and more. It was said that Manchester United have considered signing Adrien Rabiot. That was said by Ty Marshall of the Manchester Evening News, that we are considering signing Adrien Rabiot, and it was said that Manchester United are expecting one more midfielder to leave this summer, but bringing in a new player isn't entirely dependent on whether Casemiro leaves, and it was said that Mount is absolutely involved in the project of Erik ten Hag. So again, we are apparently considering signing Rabiot, but there's some Italian sources saying it's nearly done. I'm not going to report on that until we get a proper source say that. Now, it's said that Man United are expecting one more midfielder to leave this summer, but bringing in a new player isn't dependent on whether Casemiro leaves. So we're looking to bring in Ugarte whether Casemiro stays. We're looking to bring Ugarte in whether Casemiro stays, is what he is saying. And obviously, Mount is involved in the project. Now, one thing I'm going to say is this, and hear me out, okay? I think Toby Collier could maybe do a better job next to Maino than Casemiro next season, based off 2 preseason games. I'm being very reactionary, which I don't like people doing. But when I look at the athleticism of Toby Collier, and I compare it to Casemiro, and I think our biggest issue was athleticism last year in midfield, I worry about Casemiro, I do. He's a good player, but I worry. I think we need to sell him, because I look at Toby Collier's athleticism, his ability to cover ground, and I think Toby Collier right now would probably solve more of our midfield weaknesses than Casemiro in terms of partnership for Maino. And the fact that Toby Collier was playing with the first team yesterday, he could have started Mejbri and had Mount drop deep next to Casemiro like he would have last time. And instead of playing Mejbri in midfield with the first team in the first half versus Rangers, he played Toby Collier. Because I think Ten Hag has a big plan for Toby Collier. He insisted that there was pictures taken of his new signing. He gave him the captain's armband. He's given him a new deal. He was always on the bench. Toby Collier and Harry Amasa, the 2 academy players Ten Hag rates the highest, but because of Toby Collier being 3 years older and more physically developed, he's way likely to break in next season. I think he could establish himself as a part of the Maino, which kind of sounds crazy and kind of sounds deluded. But when you actually look at sort of his attributes, I think he's got what it takes for what you want in a partner for Kobbie Mainoo. What I look for in a Kobbie Mainoo partner, I can see in Toby Collier. I think he could genuinely break his way through into United team. I really do. I was really impressed by what I saw as well. Mejbri isn't good enough. Mejbri's a decent player, but I think we can get 10 million for him and move him on. I'm going to be honest with you as well. Casemiro doesn't look fully fit. He doesn't look fully fit. I agree with you as well. United are doing great business. Don't write off Casemiro. He lost what he loved about. Don't write Casemiro off. He's lost what we loved about him. He literally looks lost most games. I worry about him. I like Casemiro, but I worry about him. Let's dive into the more other news stories going about. So it was said that Man United are expecting one more midfielder to leave this summer, but bringing in a new player isn't dependent on if Casemiro leaves. And it was also said that Xavi Simons and Adrien Rabiot are highly regarded at the club, but neither at this stage are likely options. So we did get a little bit of a blow on Xavi Simons here. It was said that we like Xavi Simons and we like Rabiot, but right now they're both not looking likely is the case. To update you guys on that. But let's get into the other news. Let's get into the centre-back news, because Manchester United are obviously looking to sign Willian Pacho. Now, what is the latest on the centre-back news? Because reportedly the Branthwaite deal is off. So, what has been said here? And this is said by the very credible David Ornstein. Everton have informed Manchester United they do not intend to sanction Jarrad Branthwaite's sale this summer. Everton will only consider a deal for Branthwaite if the valuation is met. Man United retain interest, but only if the asking price drops. Everton will offer Jarrad Branthwaite a vastly improved contract to compensate for him missing out on the transfer to United. So despite Everton's takeover falling through, Everton have made it clear we've sold Amadou Onana, we are not selling Branthwaite unless our 75 million valuation is met. Now Manchester United are not going to meet that 75 million valuation. And it's essentially being said that it's very unlikely that Branthwaite to Manchester United is going to happen. It's looking increasingly unlikely that Branthwaite to Man United is going to happen. I think we make a third and final bid of £55 million, which I think Everton may reject. If they're desperate to sell, they'll accept. But it's looking increasingly likely that Branthwaite isn't going to happen. So if Branthwaite's not going to happen, you may be thinking, okay, Alice, well, who is going to happen? Because Ligt seems to be the one we've got lined up. Ligt has personal terms agreed to join United. Now, what I think is really clever about United this season is bringing players in as an issue. Ligt's agreed personal terms with United, and Branthwaite's agreed personal terms with United, and Ugarte's agreed personal terms with United. There's 3 players right now that have personal terms agreed with United and aren't even Man United players yet. because people want to come to United. De Ligt is there, he's waiting for United. Because we're not going to be able to get Branthwaite, the feeling is that Man United will go for De Ligt. But this is the big but. This is the big change. This is the big twist in the case. This is the surprising news coming in. Man United want a left footer. Man United want a left footer to cover Martinez, to cover the left back position, and that's why Branthwaite appealed. As much as they like De Ligt, and he is there because he's a really good class option, he brings experience, Man United ideally want a left footer. Now, left-footed centre-back market is good, but Calafiore has gone to Arsenal for a bargain, £35 million. Horo Hato of Ajax is a player we've looked at, but he's 17, 18. We've just signed an 18-year-old in Lena Euro. I think Hato, we probably need to want a bit more experience now to come in. Hincapie is an option, but he's not seen as someone that would maybe suit the Premier League in the physicality. I don't think he could play at centre-back in the Premier League. He's more of a left-back. So then we're slimming down the options. Inacio, again, there's questions over his physicality in the Premier League. But one guy that's physically good, and I've been saying maybe you should look at him, is Willian Pacho. Now, we hadn't been linked to Willian Pacho, but now we've got some information coming out on Willian Pacho to Manchester United. And I want to start by what Nad has said, and then I want to talk about another report. So, United Nad works for the United District, and he does get exclusive information on players every now and then. He doesn't put out much information, but when he does put out information, he's normally very accurate. He has a source, doesn't massively report on the news and stuff coming out, but he does put out information every couple of months or so, and it often tends to be confirmed the next day by The Athletic or someone, and that's this. We'll fully confirm this tomorrow, but apparently Willian Pacho has been offered to us by intermediaries. Not 100% on this news yet, but should know soon. So he's obviously talking about there being an offer for Willian Pacho. Now, interestingly, there was some reports going out in Germany that Manchester United had a conversation about Willian Pacho. So this is only news that is coming today. And Nad's saying he's not 100% sure, but he's got information about an offer for Willian Pacho. He's been offered to us. But there was also a report in Germany coming out today of potential Manchester United Willian Pacho conversations. Now, why I think this is particularly interesting is because the fact that as with Branthwaite is off, as it feels like today we found out that the Branthwaite deal is off and Branthwaite to United isn't going to happen. Like today feels like we found out that Branthwaite is off, the Branthwaite deal isn't going to happen. You know, there's not been much moves in Branthwaite. It looks like it's off. We're now apparently, having a few conversations about Pacho. Now, we know that we had a conversation about Hancho as a potential Branthwaite alternative. Manchester United really do like Hancho, and he was discussed as a Branthwaite alternative. We know that earlier in the window we looked at Inacio, although we've not moved on that. I think Ineos don't know if he's physically right for the Premier League. So we didn't make a move on Inacio. But now that Branthwaite deal looks off, it looks officially off, I think there's going to be movement on De Ligt or movement on the left centre-back option. So the fact that we're getting linked to Pacho today could be a positive sign of what's to come. Now, if you want to know a little bit about Willian Pacho and the player, I did do a big report on him a while ago. Now, I won't dive into that big report, but I can tell you the main things that you need to know. Guys, please do hit that like button and, of course, subscribe down below if you're new. We've got 900 people watching in the live chat right now, and my goal is to hit 400 likes. If you hit that like button, it really helps out the channel. We're on the road to 100k. We need just under 14,000 subscribers, so please do subscribe down below if you're new, and if you're already subscribed, hit the like button. It really helps out the channel. I want to continue on the Pacho story. We just got an update right now coming in on Xavi Simons as well. Just been a news update coming in right now on Xavi Simons, so I do want to get into that in just a second, so bear with me as well. And it was also said that there's some interesting news coming out on Ethan Wheatley. There's some interesting news coming out on Man United this morning, so I'm going to get into some more news stories in a second, but please do subscribe while we talk about Willian Pacho. Dani Olmo to United is off. Okay, I'm going to tell you this now. Dani Olmo, Man United had a look at Dani Olmo. Man United had an interest in Dani Olmo, but his release clause expired yesterday. Dani Olmo will not go to Manchester United unless they want to play significantly over the odds for him off the back of a good Euros. He also played centrally while Xavi Simons played on the left-hand side and wing for Leipzig. Dani Olmo to Manchester United, that is essentially off. That is not happening. I can tell you that for a fact. It's basically been confirmed now that we won't be signing Dani Olmo as well. Well, my thoughts, I think he'd be a good player, but I think he's more of a left back. I don't think he could play left centre back in the Premier League as well. Sell Maguire and De Ligt, sell Maguire and Lindelof and get De Ligt and Pacho, and I think that would be really good options as well. Someone said sell Rashford and get João Felix. That would make absolutely no sense because João Felix is a more similar profile to Xerxes, which means João Felix is good with players like Rashford around him, but you won't have a Rashford around him. And João Felix has been quite average in his career as well. And I like João Felix as well. Who's better, Zubimendi or Ugarte? I think Zubimendi's better, but Ugarte might be more what we need. So, who is Pacho? You might be asking, who is Pacho? Who is United's potential new Branthwaite alternative? He's 22. He plays for Frankfurt. He can play centre-back, and left-back. He's a left-footed defender that's very good at defending the wide spaces, a very good carrier, and a very good sort of, 1v1 defender, which also means he's comfortable playing left-back. He is 6'1". He's physically strong, and he's a ball-playing centre-back. In terms of ability on the ball, in terms of passing out from the back, he's a proper modern player. He's a proper modern ball-playing centre-back that's good on the ball. But not only is he technically good and good on the ball, which is what Ten Hag would like, but he's also a player that's a good ball winner and good tackler. In and out of possession, he's quite comfortable. In possession, he's able to move the ball forward and quickly, create transition opportunities, which is what Ten Hag would like because he wants to play a transition approach, break lines, progress the play, move the ball quickly. He would really help in United's build-up, but also he's good off the ball. He's a good tackler. He's got a good reading of the game. And because he's quick and athletic, he's tall, he's fast, he's strong, it means that he can defend wide channels with ease. He has elements of Mickey van der Ven. He reminds me of with his pace, his physicality. It's very difficult for people to beat him 1v1. He's very comfortable defending against some of the best talents in the Bundesliga. I think he's got the physical attributes to suit the Premier League well. I think he's got, very good attributes technically as well to help him build up. I think, he's not someone you could really play alongside Lisandro Martinez due to both of them being incredibly aggressive, but he is quite two-footed and could play right centre-back if needed to fill in there. And he is very well suited to Premier League football, in my opinion. And this was based off the analysis that I did on Pacho much earlier in the season as well. I think he could be a good option as well. What about Wan-Bissaka replacement? In terms of Wan-Bissaka replacement, obviously it's been 30 that we've been linked to. Now, I don't know if there's much going on in regards to Manchester United and 30, but obviously he was seen as the potential Wan-Bissaka replacement. But again, we'll have to see what happens. I think because he can cover left back, that could be one we explore. But I think nothing will happen and we won't know much about Wan-Bissaka replacements until Wan-Bissaka is gone. Guys, we're on 310 likes and the goal was 400 likes. So please do go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already. And of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date on all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more. We've got lots and lots to discuss in today's show. We've got a few more interesting stories coming out that I want to dive into because some news has just come out on Xavi Simons, which I'm going to drop in a second as well. But let's dive into the next story. So we're going to talk about Ahmad. We're going to talk about Sancho. We're going to talk about their potential roles ahead of next season. Now, what did Ten Hag say on Sancho? Ten Hag said Jadon Sancho is a very good player. I hope it will click and he'll contribute to our success. That's what Ten Hag said. Now, Manchester United are acting as if Sancho is going to stay and be part of the plans next season. However, what is the news on Sancho? What is the information coming out of Sancho? While Manchester United are acting as if Sancho's going to stay and he's going to be a big part of our plans next season, there is a feeling internally that they're still looking to offload Sancho, but they want to make sure they get the right price. They believe that Sancho could stay and have some involvement next season and get his price up, but they believe if Sancho's a good pre-season and looks comfortable staying at United, they will attract higher offers as they would like to sell Sancho. Now, if Manchester United sell Sancho, they'll make a move for Xavi Simons. The problem is the chances of us selling Sancho and having enough time to make a move for Xavi Simons, that is the problem because he's close to move for Germany. And there's a feeling we may miss out on a deal for Xavi Simons because we cannot offload Sancho like we missed out on Elise. Now, one player that seems to be available and we could maybe wait around for because of injury crisis and maybe Wolves overpricing him is Pedro Neto. Manchester United have a strong standing interest in Pedro Neto, and if they sell Sancho, he's expected to be top of the list of potential replacements, depending on the fee, because United are cautious around his injury record. But Pedro Neto and Rashford on the left, Garnacho and Ahmad on the right, that's four very good options on the wing. I think if you're an elite club, you need two good left-wing options and two good right-wing options. There is also news of United looking at Desiree Doué, but he looks like he's going to be advancing to Bayern Munich. There's also talks of us looking at Ndoye, but again, I think we could do a little bit better than that. We were also looking at a winger at Girona, but that doesn't seem to be the most credible news. There was links of Rafinha to United, but that is just Barcelona stuff making up crap. Manchester United did actually express a slight interest in Bakayoko, but that didn't seem to advance much. I do think that we will sign potentially a winger if Sancho leaves, and I think the plan is for Sancho to go. But Ten Hag is talking about Sancho as if he's a good player and that he will contribute to our success. And Man United are very much acting and playing along the lines of, okay, Jadon Sancho is going to stay, which I almost think is just a little bit of a game to get a bit of price for him as well. Kim says Xavi Simons not that good, and King says I don't want Xavi Simons. I like Xavi Simons. I think he's a good player, but I do think if we miss out on him, I'm not going to be annoyed. I think Xavi Simons on loan is a good option to have because he can play on the left, he can play centrally. But because I generally believe that Amad Diallo is a top player, because and a lot of people would disagree with me on this, but I genuinely believe that Marcus Rashford is a top tier player and is going to hit new levels under Xerxes. And I believe that Garnacho is a top player. If we do miss out on Xavi Simons, it's not the end of the world. I would have loved Elise. I think Elise would have been a special player to have. But yeah, I think we need a winger. But if we miss out on a winger, it's not the end of the world. For me, the most important thing now is midfield. For me, if we don't get a proper DM into partner Maino and Bruno, I would go into next season incredibly worried. Even with Toby Collier coming through, I'd go into next season incredibly worried. If we don't get a winger, I'm a bit annoyed depth-wise, but if we do well with injuries and fitness, it's not the end of the world. Potentially Anthony could become good next season because he's probably going to stay because we're going to be unable to get rid of him, although who knows. Potentially Sancho stays and becomes good next season as well. I think on the wing there is some decent options there as well. We have Amad Skuralise. I generally think this is going to be Amad's season. I generally think Amad Diallo can go to the top, and I think this could generally be Amad Diallo's season's guy. The way that Ten Hag spoke about Amad as well was a really positive sign. This is what Ten Hag had to say on Amad. My screen isn't shared. This is what Ten Hag had to say on Amad Diallo. Ten Hag said, we have to look at Amad Diallo in a different way. He's young, but more inexperienced. He had physical problems before a very good period at the end of last season. This year might be the right one. It's good to let him start like that. Very good match. I think this is Amad Diallo's breakout year. Ten Hag's basically saying he physically wasn't ready last season until the very end, which is probably Ten Hag's excuse for playing Forson and Anthony over him. He's saying this is going to be the season for Amad. He's not young anymore. He's bulked up a bit. He's physically ready. He's got that experience. He started well. Considering Man United rejected a 30 million bid for Amad Diallo about 3 weeks ago, with 1 year left on his contract, 30 million bid for a player that hasn't properly proven at United because of lack of opportunities, not his fault. United rejected 30 million offer for Amad Diallo just a couple of weeks ago. Man United are trying to get Amad Diallo on a new deal. He's got a new agent. I think Man United is selling this project of Amad. You are in the plan. You are going to get minutes. This is going to be your season. I think Ten Hag will be told to play Amad Diallo because they want him to sign a new deal. And I think Amad Diallo has everything to be a top player. In fact, I think we're a better team when Amad Diallo plays because his ball retention really helps us in the right half space. I think, the Garnacho and Rashford are great, and I love Garnacho and I don't mind Tim and Rashford playing, but when you want service for your striker, Amad does that better than Garnacho. Garnacho and Rashford are ball carriers. They like to cut in, they like to score. They're similar profiles and they're great players. But Amad is a slightly different profile of player that I think makes United a better team because of his intricate play, because of his intelligence to break down low blocks, to create his movement. I think that Amad is going to have a massive season for United next year. And the way that Ten Hag and Co is talking about Amad and the way that Man United are rejecting big offers for Amad, I think United have big plans for Amad. I think Amad will be playing for Man United next season, and I think it could be Amad on the right-hand side. I generally think we could have Rashford left wing, we could have Amad Diallo right wing, and one of Xerxes and Højlund in the middle. I really do. I almost think Rashford on the left, Xerxes in the middle, and Amad on the right. I generally think that front three would be unbelievably good. And I love Garnacho, and I don't want to drop Garnacho, but Amad on the right with Xerxes and Rashford, and I like Højlund as well. But when we've got choices of Amad, Xerxes, Højlund, when you've got Højlund and Garnacho on the bench, that's what makes an elite team. If we want to compete with Man City, having players like Højlund and Garnacho on the bench, which we've seen Højlund twice this season, the last 2 games in the Premier League, come off the bench and score and make something out of nothing. Højlund has an impact. Having players like Garnacho on the bench, we know Garnacho when he comes off the bench running against tired legs has an impact. Imagine we had Amad, Rashford, Xerxes front three in terms of complementing each other, but Rashford could clearly be kicked out by Garnacho, to be honest, because Garnacho finished great and he didn't do anything wrong. But imagine having that front three and then you've still got Højlund to come off the bench and you've still got Garnacho to come off the bench. That is what would make United like a top tier team, if I was going to be honest as well. Amad was too skinny when he came. Now he's physically strong enough for the league. I think one thing I noticed about Amad versus Rangers is he looks more strong as well, doesn't he? He looks like he's bulked up a bit. I thought Amad did a really good job of just holding off players in the Rangers game. I really did. I think he did a good job. So, guys, I want to get into some more news. I want to get into some more stories because a couple stories have dropped just now on Manchester United and some of their plans. So, academy staff are confident more senior debuts will follow after Ethan Wheatley next season. Academy staff at Manchester United believe a lot of players could potentially break through next season. Toby Collier and Harry Amas are expected to be given proper debuts next season. Manchester United academy staff still believe that Shea Lacey could potentially have opportunities next season, despite likely going to miss out on the tour due to injury issues as well. Ahmed Ibrahim was another player highly rated, but he may need another year in the under-18s. Manchester United are closing in on the signing of Obi Martin. Bayern Munich and Newcastle are trying to hijack the deal, but it looks like he's going to turn them down and join United after Obi Martin tells teammates he's set to join Manchester United as well. Reports coming out that Manchester United is super happy with the Lenny Yoro signing, and it was Omar Barada that pressed ahead to get this deal done. Manchester United were also really impressed by Maxi Odelei's performance versus Rangers, who got the assist and did very well. Joe Hugo talks about how he was training with Ruud van Nistelrooy and practicing his finishing, and he could already see an impact as well. Eric Ten Hag said on Mason Mount that he's absolutely involved in the project, that Mason Mount does not want to leave United, and we do not have plans to let go of Mason Mount. And Dan Ashworth spoke out about his plan for Manchester United and said, a vision without a plan is just a dream. A plan without a vision is just boring. We've got a plan and a vision at Man United to make us a top team in the world. Manchester United may get offers for Diogo Dalot, but they will not look to sell the player. Branthwaite is expected to be offered a new deal at Everton and unlikely to join Manchester United. Manchester United are looking at potentially Willian Pacho as a Branthwaite alternative. Inacio and Hancho have previously been looked at as well. There's also information coming out as well on Manchester United maybe pressing ahead with Ligt. There's a report coming out that Bayern Munich may lower the fee for Matthijs de Ligt, and Man United might press ahead. Apparently, the reason that De Ligt to United isn't done is not dependent on Lindelof. It's because Manchester United believe they can get De Ligt for a cheaper deal. They happily sign De Ligt and then later offload Lindelof. So even we expect Lindelof's going to go. So even if we haven't offloaded Lindelof, there's some reports saying we may sign De Ligt because we're confident that Lindelof will go. But ultimately, once we sign De Ligt, we're going to really need to sell Victor Lindelof. So there's those stories going in. Barcelona looks set to get Nico Williams. Yeah. I think Nico Williams is Barcelona bound, despite some links as well. I think he's bound. Manchester City have 115 financial breaches. Will they get relegated next season? Interestingly, Manchester City haven't done much transfer business. There's not been much transfer movement from Manchester City. They've not done much transfer business. You know, Manchester 115, could they go down next season? I think Arsenal are going to win the league next season, which I don't like to say because I don't want Arsenal to win the league. But I think Manchester City, I think that 115 charges, them not making much movement in the transfer window, them not looking as good last season despite winning the league. Pep obviously going to leave at the end of the season. I think there could be a mentality fall off at Manchester City. I think the 115 charges, no one wants to join them. Everyone's a bit wary at the moment. I think next season could be a big fall off for Manchester City. And I'm not just saying that because I want to see a big Manchester City fall off, but I generally believe next season Manchester City could fall off. Manchester Cheaty, Manchester 115, I generally think next season they are going to absolutely fall off. Maybe I'm wrong. This is when they win the treble and we have a shocking season and if someone comes back and clips this. But I'm predicting a Man City downfall next season. And then I'm predicting I think they'll probably get away with their 115 charges because all the money they spent on lawyers and money talks. But I do think interesting things can happen. Guys, please do subscribe down below if you're new. If you want to stay up to date on all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news throughout the window, do subscribe to Alice Talks Football as I keep you guys heavily updated with 2 live shows a day and then a short 10-minute roundup video. And if you have already subscribed, please just hit the like button. It helps the channel get out there and we're on the road and goal to 100,000 subscribers. We are on 86,059 subscribers, so 41 subscribers away from 86.1k. So please do subscribe. Hopefully we can hit that at the end of the day. Huffman and Fitzgerald are good options to break into midfield. Odelay could get his chance. If Odelay's loan last season was good, we wouldn't have been struggling for a midfield addition now. True, I think Fitzgerald is a very good talent, but I think he probably needs another year in the academy. So let me just take some water and round up all of today's news. So if you've joined the show recently, here is the news. Manchester United know that PSG are in advanced talks to sign Neves and they're not going to pay the money they want for Ugarte. Man United have a great relationship with Ugarte. Man United are close to reaching an agreement with Ugarte, and Ugarte's told PSG Man United's number one choice despite interest in him. PSG and United are now in negotiations over Ugarte and is expected to be in the final stages, but it might take a few days, said Romano. Man United are moving quickly for the Arsenal superstar Obi Martin, and Obi Martin has told his teammates that he will be joining Manchester United. There's an expectation that the deal is imminent, but there is interest from German clubs, there is interest from Newcastle, but he looks to be Man United bound after telling teammates he's set to join United. Other sources did say that he's said as well that he's agreed personal terms with United, but they weren't the most reliable sources. This guy obviously got 35 goal contributions in 18 games in the under-18s Premier League as a 16-year-old. He also scored 7 goals in 64 minutes versus Norwich and got 10 goals in a single game versus Liverpool at under-16s level as well. Ineos looking to get the best in class everywhere, and he's meant to be the next big thing. We've also got updates on Zubimendi. It was said that Manchester United are looking at Martin Zubimendi as they continue to consider options in their midfield during the summer transfer window, and that Zubimendi is also attracting interest from Manchester United. We've got more confirmation on United's interest in Zubimendi, but are Manchester United using Zubimendi links to get PSG to lower Ugarte's price? They tried to do that with Chido and Mount last year, but in an ideal world, if United can replace Casemiro and McTominay with Zubimendi and Ugarte, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. It was said that Manchester United have considered signing Adrian Rabiot and that United are expecting more than one midfielder to leave this summer, but signing a new midfielder isn't dependent on Casemiro leaving, which is good news in terms of Ugarte, and that Mount is in the project. It was also said that Xavi Simons and Rabiot are regarded highly at the club, but neither are likely at this stage. Bit of a blow there. It's basically been said that Branthwaite is probably not going to happen and that Everton might give Branthwaite a new deal. And Man United have potentially been offered an opportunity for Pacho. There's also sources in Germany linking us to Pacho, who could be a really good Branthwaite alternative. Although there's also other sources in Germany saying if we don't get Branthwaite, we'll make a move for Ligt, despite him being right-footed. And then Ten Hag sort of spoken about Sancho being a good player and how he hopes he contributes to the success. And Ten Hag spoke about it being Amad Diallo's season as well. So lots of news we got through in today's show, lots of interesting stories. So I want to thank everybody who was watching today's show. Offload Deadwood and bring in these players, Xavi Simons or Desiree Doué or Bakayoko, one of them, plus Amrabat, Ugarte, Zubimendi and Ferdi. For me, if we can get Ligt or Branthwaite or Pacho in alongside Euro, if we can maybe get Ferdi in for fullback cover once we've offloaded players, if we can get Zubimendi and Ugarte, if we can then get one of the wingers like Desiree Doué, Neto, Xavi Simons, I would be really, really happy with that as well. And Alice, what about Onana performance? He coming with confidence. I like Onana, but his long ball distribution needs to improve. But I think Onana's going to have a good game. And one thing I like about Andre Onana is he's got a very good mentality. I've always said this. Andre Onana's mentality has always impressed me. I think he's got that winning mentality, that captain mentality, that leadership mentality. He said we're here to support, obviously, Lenny Euro and everything he does. And I really like that from Onana as well. I think he's got that perfect mentality. But listen, people, I'm going to wrap up the live show here. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. We'll be back about lunchtime if any news breaks. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like the video on the way out. Bye.